What up, fight fans? It's your boy, Healer, the Mind Body Coach. And I want to spit some good boxing talk right now. And I know you want that good boxing talk right now. Why else would you click on the video? So let's get it. Shout out to the LDBC, New Media, and Black Media Row. And special shout out to channel subscribers. So today I want to talk to you about the return of the Great White Hope. For those of you who aren't familiar with the concept of the Great White Hope, the Great White Hope is not an insult to white boxers. It is actually a terminology coined by boxing promoters in the early 1900s, and it referred to any tall boxer, white boxer, that could be seen as a threat to the reigning black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson. Now, about 100 years ago, maybe a little over 100, maybe 105 years ago or something like that, there was a guy named Jack Johnson. And in America, this was post-slavery, where black people were free but not truly equal, so to speak. You know, it was where black people had to defer to white people, and you had to act like you were scared of them all the time. And at this time, blacks were not allowed to challenge for the heavyweight title. They could fight and win their own Negro title, but they were not allowed to challenge for the heavyweight championship of the world, because the guy who made the heavyweight championship prestigious, I forget his name, but he had a huge handlebar mustache. I don't care about his name, but he said something to the effect of, the heavyweight championship means that you're the baddest man on the planet. And that guy said, a black guy can't challenge for that title. And they basically only fought each other, and they upheld that standard. But eventually, a Canadian named Noah Brusso, under a different name, I forgot what he called himself, but his real name is Noah Brusso, he gave Jack Johnson a chance and got beat up. And a black man held the title. So the term Great White Hope represented a white man who would come and take boxing back from the blacks. Now, excuse me. So there were many Great White Hopes. There were many boxers who had the term Great White Hope. And none of them really could beat Jack Johnson. I believe it wasn't until Jess Willard. Jess Willard was the one who finally beat Jack Johnson. And after Jack Johnson was beaten, they drew the color line again, basically saying, hey, no, black people can't challenge for this belt. Now, Jack Johnson was a wild boy. Jack Johnson was a real one. Jack Johnson got speeding tickets. Jack Johnson wore the flyest clothes, won hundreds of thousands of dollars, and spent it all in one night at a whorehouse. Jack Johnson openly dated white women. So it's not that he was just beating up white guys. He was also dating white women at a time where people were getting hung for this. This was pre-Emmett Till. Rest in peace. You know, so he created a lot of problems, and he basically upset. Basically, we wouldn't be able to appreciate the position we have as black people, the little position we have as black people in America, if Jack Johnson didn't do the things he did. Granted, he did it for himself, but nonetheless, he did some groundbreaking stuff. So there would be no black heavyweight champions if it wasn't for Jack Johnson. Interracial marriage, interracial dating, comfortably. Yeah, he started all those things. He used to wear grills back in the 20s, you know, fast cars and grills. And he was the sharpest dresser. This was a real one from back in the day. And the establishment couldn't have another one of those black champions as a black champion, because it's like it trickled down. When Jack Johnson became a champion, it kind of made black Americans feel like, hey, maybe we don't have to defer to white people and put our noses down. You know what I mean? And this was true because right after Jack Johnson's win, there was a newspaper. The newspaper read, it was Jack Lemon or Jack London. I forgot his name. The writer at the time. What he had wrote was, he basically said hey, Negroes, just because Jack Johnson won this boxing match, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't mean that you're somehow better or you are lifted up as people. You're still broke. You're basically still former slaves. Don't let this victory go to your head. You wouldn't say that unless you were threatened that would be the result. You wouldn't draw the color line unless you felt that would be the result. So Jack Johnson's attitude trickled down into the black community. And then it actually created problems. And there were some black people who did not support him. But this is about the Great White Hope. And I'm about to explain why it is the return of the Great White Hope. So all the boxing fans knew, if you watch boxing, boxing was your shit, you fuck with boxing, you know that the best boxers were the black guys who were getting frozen out. Because the color line was drawn with Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey refused to fight black people. Perhaps he fought them outside the ring, but never in the ring so they could risk getting the title. Now, nonetheless, they brought in Joe Louis. Now, Joe Louis, I respect him as a fighter. I don't know him as a man. But characteristically speaking, he had to play a certain role and that might have been who he was. But he had to play a certain role in order for the white establishment to give him a chance at getting the title. And it was said to Joe Louis, because he had white handlers, they said to him, we only let one of you through every 10 years. Otherwise, you would take over the sport. This is what was said in the early 1900s about boxing when black people were just coming into it. Not even just coming into it. We're on the fringes. We're on the outside. We're not allowed to fight in the same league. You know, at least for titles. They would fight you, but when it came to the heavyweight championship, they wouldn't risk it because it would upset society. It would throw all the garbage that they said about black people into the trash, that they're inferior and all these things. In fact, the stereotype of the black man being a physically superior specimen pretty much comes from boxing and the event with Jack Johnson. Because before that wasn't it. You were inferior. But then after that, it's, oh, you're built different. So Joe Louis got a chance. And Joe Louis was the opposite of Jack Johnson. Joe Louis was a family man. He wasn't the party animal. He loved his black women. He would not be caught dead in the streets with white women. He would not smile after knocking out a white opponent and gloat over them like Jack Johnson did. So he reminds me of Anthony Joshua. Oh my God. Oh, well, no. Joe Louis is more. Joe Louis is a beast. Put it like that. Joe Louis has the greatest record as a heavyweight champion. Better than Muhammad Ali. Joe Louis has 24 title defenses of his heavyweight crown. Unified, undisputed heavyweight crown. Was it 20 or 24? Nonetheless, Joe Louis, like I said, he did things that his handlers were like, hey, we can't have you do these things and these things that Jack Johnson did. Don't coon around, basically. Don't be a black guy. Be the white man's version of the black guy, which is called, in the hood, that's called house nigga. I hate to insult Joe Louis like that, because I don't know if that's how he is, but maybe that's what he had to do to get where he needed to be. And respect. But he was also the type of man to straighten his hair. But again, at that time, a lot of black people would perm their hair and straighten it, you know, because they didn't want you on TV with nappy hair. You get me? But even Sugar Ray Robinson did that. Like, everybody did that. That was kind of America at the time. But nonetheless, he played the role and he became the heavyweight champ. Now, after Joe Louis, it pretty much, Rocky Marciano, it just changed. Once, I think around Muhammad Ali, it went from black hand to 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 black hand for like 30 years in boxing. Until, I think Jerry Coetzee and Jerry Cooney. And Jerry Cooney's nickname was the Great White Hope. Because as Joe Louis's handlers had predicted, black people took over boxing. And it just changed from one black man to a black man to a black man. And a white man was not champion again. Until the Great White Hope came around. Now, let's get into the particulars of the Great White Hope. Now, Jerry Cooney didn't exactly fit all of these things, but for the most part, the Great White Hope is the white man's champion, the one that's going to take the title away from an invincible black man. However, during Jack Johnson's time, the Great White Hopes, a lot of them were European, not American homegrown. They would try to find the tallest European they could find. They would try to find the tallest European they can. I mean, Fury fits that 100%. He's white. He's European. He's tall. He's the tallest. And yeah, America loves him more than they love their American champion. Wilder is the WBC champion. His market is America. His flag is America. Tyson Fury is from Ireland and traveled to England. His people settled in England or wherever, and yeah, he represents that. He's trying to get their love and their approval. He was sad when they didn't accept him. He's a UK fighter. Tyson Fury is from the UK. He represents the UK. Just like Lennox Lewis represented the UK. Right? And Mike Tyson represented USA. Right? But, like I said, it's the return of the Great White Hope. The American media, you have to understand, boxing kind of fell off in America because America wants someone that looks like them, because all of America's champs have been black dudes. So a lot of people stopped investing in boxing. They weren't into it as much because it's like, oh, it's just black dudes. They can't see themselves in it. It's like, okay, if I can only watch okay, that's a silly reference. Okay, fine, I'll make this reference. It's like, you typically, if you watch porn, you watch the type of porn that you are, Like, I don't watch white dudes with any kind of women. It's got to be a black dude with any other kind of woman. I'm definitely gonna cut that out. But yeah. The thing is, Deontay Wilder is not what America wants, because he's outspoken about, I guess you could say, inequality and about the black struggle to some degree, because he goes through and he's not exactly silent about it. To this day. You feel me? They don't want an indignant black man from Alabama to represent America. They would rather AJ. Because AJ is the Joe Louis. More compliant. Not boastful. Doesn't give you nightmares. I think that somewhere like in the powers that be, that kind of guy gives them nightmares. They're like, this Negro, he's knocking everybody out. I hope I never get trapped in a room with him or something like that. You know what I mean? So basically, Wilder's not what they want to represent the USA. So they root against him. They find everything to root against him. He's a villain. They've made him a villain. And they're setting up Fury to be a hero, to slay the villain. So, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but there's an article, link in the description, Vice Sports, that was referencing the Great White Hope. And it said, the concept of the Great White Hope is the single most effective marketing strategy in the history of mankind. The single most effective marketing strategy in the history of mankind. Because everybody wanted to tune in. Everybody around the world wants to see this. Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor drummed that up too. They were playing on that. A little bit of racism that's not necessarily real. They're shaking hands behind doors, you know? So it leads me to believe that Tyson Fury, with this $100 million deal over 5 fights, they're going to give him easy fights. At least 3 or 4. Yeah, 3 easy fights where they can do it in America and show him off. Get him to be the great American hero. This knight in shining armor, this white knight who had mental health problems and conquered it, because mental health is a big thing right now. So he overcame mental health, and now he's about to slay this black beast. That's pretty much what's going on. The hated black champion. They're going to build him up over the next 3 fights, and then the 4th fight might be Joshua. They might take a crack at Joshua. That'll be one of their black beasts. And if they can't, and if they finish Joshua, then they'll come after. Then they're sure he can beat Joshua. And then they'll come after Wilder. But if you know the history of the Great White Hope, it's all a hope. I'm surprised the Klitschko's weren't. I feel like boxing died down when Klitschko's took over, because all I kept on hearing was that they're boring. And oh yeah, that's something I wanted to touch on before I wrap this up. HBO contributed to the death of boxing, even though they contributed to the growth of boxing, and then they kind of destroyed it when they used to put on fights all the time. But eventually, their black talent, their local talent, they just shot them. It's like they constantly disrespected them with biased commentary, never gave them the chance, if you will, and instead tried to tell you that an Eastern European is the next Muhammad Ali. That an Eastern European is just like a black man who went undefeated for a long time, got locked up for standing up for the rights of his people and telling America the truth, and getting locked up for it and taking that like a man, and coming out and winning the heavyweight title again and reigning for a long time, then fighting well into old age. They want you to believe that this unproven European, which a lot of them, I'm not taking shots at anybody, but last time I checked, what country was kicked out of the Olympics for roids? Who stayed popping for roids? Some black guys do pop for roids too. So forgive me, no names. There's a lot of people, black and white, that pop for roids. It's all across the board. This is not a hate on white people thing. This is just pointing out the facts. A lot of those Eastern European fighters were on roids. Remember the movie Rocky, Drago? So they expect you to believe that these unproven Eastern European fighters that come from places that more than likely are are known for roids is the next that guy, Muhammad Ali. Even though the black ones are dominating the sport. They were always trying to create a great white hope. And when they couldn't, boxing died. Because they weren't uplifting the talent they had. And again, the great white hope has returned. They brought him to America. Bob Arum got him. Top Rank. Those are the ones who were originally trying to do it. Well, let them hope. It's gonna be fun. It's a great marketing strategy. We're gonna get a good build up, and Fury gonna get knocked out. Because it's false. Because it's false. Boxing always, the truth comes out in boxing. If he was built on something else, his morals and I can't say that about Fury, because I still like him as a boxer, but to know that you're dodging the Wilder fight because they're trying to build you up into the next great white hype, I can't root for you anymore. I can't root for you because you're messing with the people who make it about race. If Fury beat Wilder the first time, I would not be upset with that. I like Fury. I wish him well. I'm glad he's getting paid. But this is that hypey shit. We all know how this ends. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button. Leave a comment down below. Make sure you hit the bell icon.